Hello and welcome to what is the final review episode of this season of the Talk of the Trinity podcast. I am Baz Barrett. Our journey has come to an end in terms of talking about Villa, but quite literally right now, my co-host, Mr. Trinity himself, Will Forrest, is on his own journey because he's joining us from an undisclosed secret location in his brand new automobile. So we will get to enjoy this new journey with him live whilst we talk about things that have already happened. And speaking about things that have already happened, if you want to reminisce over the past season and our thoughts, feelings, conversations about that, then you can check out our YouTube channel at Talk of the Trinity, whereby all our episodes for the past season are up there for your viewing pleasure. Alternatively, if, like Mr. Trinity, you are currently driving or otherwise commuting, then you can go to our audio providers to listen to all our previous episodes on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, Google, Geezer, Deezer, some other ones that we've been spammed by to add to the list. But if you just want some good old-fashioned Twitter fun, then you can go to our Twitter page at Talk Trinity, whereby you thought the polls are over because the season's over. Oh no, there are plenty more to be sinking your teeth into during the course of the summer, where we update you with all things Villa coming in and out, transfers. There's plenty of them going on at the moment. Rumours are in full circle, and also some actual concrete news has already happened since the last game of the season that we will touch upon later on in the podcast. But like a plaster that's been on for a while, you just need to tear it off. You just need one quick motion to get it done with, take that pain, and then move on to the good stuff, which brings me on two events last Sunday at the Etihad. Manchester City 3, Aston Villa 2. And whilst a Man City win was predicted by both me and my co-host, safe to say, Will, it didn't quite go the way we thought it was going to go when we did our preview episode last week.
You're completely right, aren't you? No, it didn't. And we joked about, I can't remember whether it was actually on the episode or whether it was before, we said at one point, you watch, everybody's saying that Man City will win, Liverpool will win, or this will happen and that. Nobody ever predicted Villa and Wolves to win. And at a couple of different moments in both of the games, both teams were leading. Obviously, we were doing slightly better, and we took the eventual champions to the 70th, 75th minute, and that's just, it's one of them, isn't it, where we had hope in our hands, we had love in our hearts, we had belief that we could achieve the impossible dream, where Adidas says impossible is nothing. Well, it is impossible for us to win against Manchester City, especially at the Etihad. It just doesn't happen. And we succumb, if that's even a word, to our favourite scoreline defeat of 3-2. I don't know how many times we've lost 3-2, I tell you, and it's always when we're 2-0 up first. Not for the first time this season. I imagine that Liverpool fans were feeling quietly confident when we went 2-0 up. Yet if they'd have looked across to the Wolves fans and said, hey, Villa are winning 2-0, the Wolves fans would have gone, well, let me just stop you there. Maybe you don't remember October at Villa Park.
So I think Dean Smith remembers October at Villa Park. I mean, that was very much a turning point in his season and Villa's, and potentially moving forwards, and a historic moment like it was for Man City winning their title. But you mentioned in terms of holding out for 70 minutes and then it went wrong. Are you a positive, Will, in terms of wanting to focus on the 70 minutes where Man City had most of the ball, but I think it was fair to say Villa deserved their lead? Or do you want to be a negative, insert name of potential co-host here, and look at the remaining 20 minutes whereby we threw it away, threw a winning position away. Which now the season is over, which side of that debate are you leaning towards?
Finally, I can start to be negative. No, I'm joking. I think at the end of the day, with all of this, I've been positive all season long. I'm going to remain positive now because the summer months are ahead of us, and it's already started positively, as you've touched upon or alluded to ever so briefly. 70 minutes, 2-0 up against Manchester City. How many teams this season can say that they've really rocked the champions or really rocked, the champions now? But how many people have really rocked Manchester City and made people think, oh my days, Manchester City could lose this? There aren't many teams, and for little old Aston Villa to come along and do what they did was fantastic, really. I mean, the 2 goals that we scored were extremely well taken. You look at that first one, our left back crosses the ball to our right back to score. And with that goal, it may just be worth mentioning that Matty Cash's goal contributions beat Jack Grealish's goal contributions. So maybe they signed the wrong floppy-haired superstar from the Villa in the summer. And then that second goal, it was quite Route 1. The big long ball forward, the Watkins flick on. But what an absolutely beautiful finish from Coutinho. And hopefully that proves some of the naysayers about him wrong. I know that a lot of that is likely due to the fact that he hadn't scored for a few games when Deere had come on and done very well. But it was a beautiful goal. It showed and reignited the hope and the excitement around his signing as well. And let's be completely honest, we could have had a couple more. Ollie Watkins should have done better on 2 or 3 occasions. There was the one where he got through and Stones got back and tackled him. There was the very intelligent effort as well where he ran through and hit the ball into the ground over Ederson and it went wide. And I'm sure there was another one as well from close range that he put wide as well. And you think that with the right striker on the pitch, and I'm not saying Danny Ings, I mean any clinical finisher for playing for us, and we've wrapped that up. We've won that game 3 or 4-0. If you had a Harry Kane or, dare I say it, a Luis Suarez, next season, I'm not saying Kane's going to join us, but if you had a Luis Suarez next season in those positions, I think he probably takes those chances. Another player we've mentioned before, though not everybody agrees that we'd sign him, Callum Wilson. Callum Wilson would have put at least one of those away that Watkins should have. That's the only real negative that I've got. I thought we played very well for the 70, and then the last 20. Could you put it down to individual errors and just the elite mentality of Manchester City? I think you could do. And it's a shame that we lost, but it's not the end of the world. It gives us that 70 minutes gives us a good platform to build on for next year.
I mean, fundamentally, that's true in terms of it's not the end of the world for us in terms of it didn't affect a European qualification or, a Premier League trophy for us or relegation. So we are able to, in that sense, brush it off and look forward to next season. And I do think in terms of the positives, as you mentioned, and Gerard mentioned before the Burnley game, I believe that he was very happy with his fullbacks, and combining for that first goal demonstrates why. Also, Matty Cash, I think it correct to say he played every game this season for Villa in the Premier League. So that's a sign of consistency, especially when there were rumours in January about him potentially not even being at the club at the end of the season. obviously Coutinho, I mean, his finish was that crisp. I think Sky missed it first time round because they were busy showing a replay from another game that was going on. So it took a couple of times just to confirm that he'd actually scored. But yeah, I mean, I think that there was joking in terms of he was going to score against Man City, was going to help Liverpool out. That happened, but does demonstrate, he's a big game player who can do it against the better teams. And we've already got that business sewn up for next season, as you mentioned. So that's positive. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned Watkins. I agree in terms, I think that demonstrates, like probably 15 other teams in the league, that a clinical striker is required. That's the difference between, in this case, no points and 3 points. Because I think in terms of, whilst City had most of the ball before the first goal, they didn't really do very much with it in terms of creating clear-cut chances, although Robin Olsen did his best, bless him, in terms of giving Man City encouragement. In terms of, he was a bit rusty, which is perhaps understandable, being as though he hadn't played for Villa before. He worked his way into the game. There were a few occasions where City were kind of leaving players in the Villa defence literally and proverbially on their arse. But Villa were kind of weathered the storm. And then for the first goal, you could say it was against a run of play, but I think we'd had the same number of shots on target as Man City had by that point. And for me, watching the rest of the first half, I think City needed half time more than Villa did, in terms of, you could tell they were shaken by Villa's goal. And then in the second half, similar pattern with Villa 2 up. You kind of, you never know it's done. I mean, you mentioned the number of times we lost 3-2. So there was never kind of the counting of the proverbial chickens by that stage. But yeah, I think kind of the flip of that was, once the first goal went in, you were there thinking, not that, we might hold on for a point. I think there was the fear and the doom kind of going over from previous experience, saying, yeah, they're going to score 3 here. Because we do have experience of throwing away a 2-0 lead in Manchester in a title decider, or a game that would go on in title infamy on the other side of Manchester. Makieda, Liverpool fans will remember his cameo for Villa. But
Makieda.
But I think you got to look at it. I agree ultimately with you in terms of, there's players in that team who will be in the lineup for Villa. You would anticipate, you would hope, first game of next season. There's players who probably won't be in terms of that lineup, whether they've been sold or they're in the squad rather than first choice. And I think that's, for me, I'm going on the positive side of it. For 70 minutes, we pretty much did the perfect away job against by the table, the best team in the country. And if we can add a couple more players, and we will come on to that later on, in terms of, so we can hold out that final 20 minutes in those big games, then yeah, there's reasons to be optimistic in terms of next season. But through gritted teeth, we'll say congratulations to Man City for the title, and that is the last of the credit. And we'd say, in terms of, you mentioned Matt Cash had more goal contributions than Jack Grealish. I suppose that's why he had to, make up for it in the celebrations afterwards, in order to demonstrate that he was actually there during the day, on the basis that he didn't get on the pitch. But I'm going to leave it there in terms of talking about that game. We focused on the positives, and the final 38 game season is now over. And for those of you who have been with us on this journey all the way through the season, firstly, thank you for sticking with us and listening. We really do appreciate all the listens and the views and the likes and the retweets. But you will also know that before every game in the preview, me and Will do a prediction in terms of what we think the score is going to be. And we updated where the scores were roughly halfway through the season. And headline note was, we were flying high in the league for Will's predictions, and we were roughly halfway for mine. So now the season is over. And the headline notes, in terms of regular listeners, will also know that Will likes to describe himself as positive Will and me as negative Baz. But having gone through the results for the entirety of the season, it may need to be changed a little, because the scores on the doors, if everything would have happened in the way that we both predicted it, it would actually be positive Baz and extremely, extremely, extremely optimistic Will. But to break that down, in terms of the position, in terms of Villa came 14th at the end of the season on 45 points. If the results would have happened as I predicted them, then Villa would have ended up on 54 points and they would have come 8th. So for me, I was 9 points over optimistic in terms of how Villa finished the season. Would you like to hazard a guess, Will, as to where Villa would have come in the league table if your predictions would have been correct, and how many points, and I'll give a spoiler alert, over the points total that Villa actually got would have happened if your predictions would have been correct?
Oh, well, I think we won the Champions League and the Europa League by about November under me, if I'm being completely honest with you. I know. I'm going to maybe negative it down just a little bit and say I think we would have got probably about 82 points. Second or third. We would finish third, I reckon. Am I completely off? Did we win the league by much of a margin in the end?
No, you are correct in your prediction of third, because that's where Villa would have come if your predictions would have been 100% correct. The record, if your predictions would have happened, would have been 24 wins, 7 draws, and 7 defeats. So 79 points.
Oh, I wasn't far off. Mate, one more win and about 82. You know.
You would. I mean, so 34 points more than what we got is what you predicted. And for those interested, my record, it would have been 13 wins, 15 draws, and 10 defeats. So
no one cares.
If in doubt, go for a draw. But in terms of things that, well, maybe 2 people might care about, in terms of the results we got right, in terms of predicting a Villa win or a draw or a defeat, that result was correct, not the score. Over the course of the season, I got 14 correct results in terms of predicting accurately a win, loss, or a draw. Okay. You got 16. So
no way did I beat you on that. I'm sorry.
So on that metric, you won. But in terms of those correct results, as in win, lose, draw, would you like to hazard a guess how many correct scores, actual correct results that you got?
All right, well, I'm going to go for you first. And I reckon you probably got about 8 or so. And I reckon I got 1. I reckon I got 1. I think it was a defeat. That said, maybe the 2-1 to Liverpool at home. That could be a second one. So yeah, I'm going to go for 1. 8-1 to you. I still can't believe I got 16 and you got 14, because I'm crap with that sort of stuff. But I suppose when you put Villa to win every week and to lose against the top 6, eventually you're going to get some right, aren't you?
No, I'd say you were close, and you mentioned Liverpool, because the score in that regard matches a famous score between Villa and Liverpool. I got 7 correct results, and you got 2.
Yeah.
So
that's surprised.
So what this has concluded, apart from we're right roughly 1 out of 3 times, slightly higher, and so most of the time you can disregard what we say in terms of it being accurate. When I'm right, I'm more right, but you are right more often. So
you're right. That's it,
yep.
isn't it?
Yep. So that very scientific analysis of our predictions, it's not the journey, it's not the destination, it's the journey. That's what I say. So, we have a good time talking about it. And, if we're slightly wrong, then, that's just a fact of life. We've all had a nice time. But we've had a fun time speaking of that in terms of predicting our results. And we're going to go again next year, see if we can beat our records. And we'll see if Will can get Villa higher up his league table and if we're actually winning the league next year in Will's predictions. And, we'll see how that compares to real life. But speaking of real life, we mentioned it, we teased it at the start of the episode. The season might be over, but events are still happening at Villa. And we've already done transfer business. I mean, we talked about Coutinho last week. We've already had our first summer signing. Rumours were coming out on Twitter during the Man City game, I believe. And they were confirmed the following day, where Villa announced the signing. You don't get very many free signings anymore that are particularly high profile, not too many. But we have bucked the trend to bring in Camara from Marseille. And if you believe the rumours, quite significant competition from teams in Europe, if you believe the rumours. So waking up to that news being confirmed for you, Will, what's your reaction to that? Are you happy with that signing?
I think it's a fantastic signing. I've only seen little bits of Boubacar Kamara playing. I've done quite a bit of research and reading and watched another very good video actually from an analyst who says that Kamara very much likes to play that holding midfield role. He's very good at carrying the ball forward, being progressive, but he also plays quite a bit in a double pivot as well, in like a 4-2-3-1. So that'll give Gerrard some options. I think the one thing that makes a lot of sense though, when you consider where Kamara will play, and he'll play defensive mid. Gerrard's already said we've
I think we might have lost you there, Will, in terms of the perils of live recording. But hopefully, whilst I pad this bit out, we may get the end of Will's comment when connection has been re-established. But frantically hoping beyond hope, but don't think that is going to happen. So with that dramatic end, although, yep, it had it confirmed here at my end. Will, I mean, we said he was on a journey. He's taken us on that journey, but now we have been disregarded at the end of that journey. His secret location, obviously, he has been frisked for recording equipment. And so we have lost the signal with Will there. But
yes, I'm back. I apologise.
Will is back. Man, this is, I've taken the listeners on a journey kind of whilst you've been away, Will. But now you have re-established your connection. Now you have been escorted out of your undisclosed secret location. Perhaps you can recap your comments on camera and your thoughts on relation to what you've seen in terms of your analysis.
Yeah, so as I say, Boubacar Kamara, I think from what I've seen, and I haven't seen loads of him, I've only seen little bits of games with him. And I've seen a couple of analysis videos as well. It seems that he likes to play as that defensive midfielder, and Gerrard has said he's joining as a midfielder, which is good for us. It's what we've been crying out for. You sort of get the feeling that this has been organised since January, really, don't you? And I don't think it's surprising now that you realise that Kamara's joining as to how deep Dougie has played in the last couple of games, where he's dropped right in between the centre backs, and he's really became a third centre back, hasn't he? You know, for us in a lot of games, especially that Burnley game. So it'll be very interesting to see how Kamara fits into the team, but you think he's going to walk straight in. What will also be very interesting about this incredibly exciting signing is who's going to flank him, who's going to play either side of him. I can't see us changing to a 4-2-3-1. I think we stick with the 4-3-2-1. But which two midfielders are going to line up in midfield and help us push on from third place next season?
They're who is going to push us towards that fabled league title. And I think that is a very deep question, you know, in terms of there's going to be a lot of incomings, outgoings you would expect. And as has been mentioned previously, maybe a couple of surprises in terms of incomings. We've already had a couple. Maybe in terms of outgoings as well, a few surprising players who you would have thought maybe would have stuck around, you know, whether that's because they're not in Gerrard's plans or we have an offer too good to refuse. There's going to be some discussion moments. And speaking of discussion moments, you'll have noticed that I'm not diving in to answer Will's question there in terms of who is going to be flanking Kamara, because the reviews are over, but that does not mean that the season is over for Talk of the Trinity. We're moving on already to the preseason, and the first episode we are going to have lined up for you is our review in depth of the season just gone for Villa, and probably our answer to that question in terms of how we think at this stage we're going to be lining up come first game of next season. And I say because we got Will, you got me, but we need to assess the squad. You know, we need to go through all the players who've had minutes during the course of this season. And what better way to do that than to bring some of the old friends back to give their thoughts in terms of all things Villa this season. And also, like Villa, we've already done a bit of transfer business. We've already got a new signing signed up to the podcast. He's already put his signature on that dotted line, and he is going to be joining us for our season review, which is going to be with you, hopefully, during the course of next week. Who are these mystery men that, and spoiler alert, it is going to be men. Although, is it? Am I doing the double bluff? You will have to find out by keeping your eye on the Twitter page at Talk Trinity, where we will be trailing, teasing, announcing our review podcast. Or you can keep an eye on our YouTube channel, Talk of the Trinity, whereby we will be uploading that for your viewing pleasure. Or just make sure your subscriptions are up to date on our audio providers, Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, Deezer. We'll be releasing it on there as well. In the meantime, we also will be keeping you up to date with all the Villa transfers, incomings and outgoings, because it's going to be a busy summer if the last couple of days is anything to go by. And we will be getting your thoughts as well in terms of the incomings and outgoings, and also who you think we should be going after, should be letting go. Your reactions to rumours as well. So keep your eye on our Twitter page for all that as well. But in the meantime, on that tantalising teaser, and before, speaking of tantalising teasers, I pass you over to Mr. Trinity himself, Will Forrest. May I take this opportunity to thank you all for listening, watching, subscribing, retweeting, liking, whatever you've been doing during the course of the last season, following the podcast. Really do appreciate it. We made it through the season. We're going to be back for more during the off season and going into next season. But in the meantime, from me, thanks very much for all your support, and we'll be back with you again soon.
Yeah, you know, just to reiterate that, thank you for joining us for all 1,942.7 episodes that we've released for you this year, and even the ones that we tried to release that didn't quite come out. They just weren't ready to be released, those ones. Thank you very much for all the support, for the likes, the retweets, the follows. Thank you for completing all of the Matty Cashes that we put onto Twitter over the course of the season. A massive, massive, heartfelt thank you has to go to Dave, Liam, Russell, Connor for joining us on more than one occasion. It's been a pleasure chatting to you all as the season's gone on and seeing how your thoughts and feelings have changed, how much you've all come to love Danny Ings as well, which is great. We're starting up a Danny Ings fan club. When he leaves, though, we'll be setting up a helpline for people like me who really love him. Thanks also to the other guests who have been on, you know, Jamie Gray, the other podcasts as well. Thanks, Baz, for hosting all of the time. You know, it's been a wonderful season. It's been a great thing to do. Long may this continue over the next however many seasons until we die, because we are Villa till we die. Just to add that morbid bit onto it. Sorry about that. But yeah, nice one. We'll join you next time for the big end of season review. And who knows, it may not just be Camera that we're excited about, especially if Shirley Bassey, Bitey, Suarez, or Toughman Tarko join in the meantime. But until they're Villa till they die, Baz and I most certainly are. Cheers, Tar. Thank you very much. Up the Villa.